Sri Sai Satcharita, Chapter 50. Chapter 50 of the original Satcharita has been incorporated in Chapter 39 as it dealt with the same subject matter. Now, Chapter 51 of the Satcharita has been treated here as Chapter 50. This chapter gives the stories of Kaka Saheb Dikshit, Sri Tembe Swami, and Balram Dhurandhar. Victory be unto Sai, who is a mainstay of the Bhaktas, who is our Sadguru, who expounds the meaning of the Gita and who gives us all powers. O Sai, look favorably on us and bless us all. The sandalwood trees grow on the Malaya mountains and ward off heat. The clouds pour the rain water and thereby cool and refresh all the people. The flowers blossom in the spring and enable us to worship God therewith. So the stories of Sai Baba come forth in order to give solace and comfort to the readers. Both those who tell and those who hear the stories of Baba are blessed and holy. It is a well-established fact that though we try hundreds of means or sadhanas, we do not attain the spiritual goal of life unless a Sadguru blesses us with his grace. Hear the following story in illustration of this statement. Kaka Saheb Dikshit, 1864 to 1926. Mr. Hari Sitaram alias Kaka Saheb Dikshit was born in 1864 in Vadnagra Nagar in a Brahmin family at Khandwa, Central Province. His primary education was done at Khandwa, Hinganghat, and secondary education at Nagpur. He came to Mumbai for higher education and studied first in Wilson College and then in Elphinstone College. After graduation in 1883, he passed his LLB and solicitor's examinations and then served in the firm of the government solicitors, Messrs. Little & Co. And then after some time started a solicitor's firm of his own. Before 1909, Sai Baba's name was not familiar to Kaka Saheb, but after that he soon became his great devotee. While he was staying at Lonavala, he happened to see his old friend, Mr. Nana Saheb Chandorkar. Both spent some time talking about many things. Kaka Saheb described to him how while he was boarding a train in London, he met with an accident in which his foot slipped and was injured. Hundreds of remedies gave him no relief. Nana Saheb then told him that if he wished to get rid of the pain and lameness of his leg, he should go to his Sadguru, Sai Baba. He also gave him all the particulars of Sai Baba and mentioned to him Sai Baba's dictum, I draw to me my man from far off or even across the seven seas like a sparrow with a string fastened to its feet. He also made it clear to him that if he was not Baba's man, he would not be attracted to him and given darshan. Kaka Saheb was pleased to hear all this and said to Nana Saheb that he would go to Baba, see him and pray to him to cure not so much his lame leg, but bring round his lame, fickle mind and give him eternal bliss. Some time after, Kaka Saheb went to Ahmednagar and stayed with Sardar Kaka Saheb Mirikar in connection with securing votes for a seat in the Mumbai Legislative Council. Mr. Bala Saheb Mirikar, son of Kaka Saheb Mirikar, who was a Mamlatdar of Kopargaon, also came at that time to Ahmednagar in connection with the horse exhibition there. After the election business was over, Kaka Saheb Dikshit wanted to go to Shirdi, and both the Mirikars, father and son, were also thinking about a fit and proper person as a guide with whom he should be sent there. There Sai Baba was arranging things for his reception. Shama got a telegram from his father-in-law at Ahmednagar stating that his wife was seriously ill and that he should come to see her with his wife. Shama with Baba's permission went there and saw his mother-in-law and found her improving and better. Nana Saheb Pandse and Appa Saheb Gadre happened to see Shama on their way to the exhibition and they told him to go to Mirikar's house, see Kaka Saheb Dikshit and take him to Shirdi along with him. Kaka Saheb Dikshit and the Mirikars were also informed of Shama's arrival in the evening. In the evening, Shama came to Mirikars, who introduced him to Kaka Saheb. They arranged that Shama should leave for Kopargaon with Kaka Saheb by the 10 o'clock night train. After this was settled, a curious thing happened. Bala Saheb Mirikar threw aside the veil or covering on Baba's big portrait and showed the same to Kaka Saheb. He was surprised to see that he, whom he was going to meet at Shirdi, was already there in the form of his portrait to greet him at this juncture. He was much moved and made his prostration before the portrait. This portrait belonged to Megha. The glass over it was broken and it was sent to Mirikars for repairs. The necessary repairs had already been made, and it was decided to return the portrait with Kaka Sahib and Shama. Before 10 o'clock, they went to the station and booked their passage, but when the train arrived, they found that the second class was overcrowded and that there was no room for them. Fortunately, the guard of the train turned out to be an acquaintance of Kaka Sahib, and he put them in first class. Thus, they travelled comfortably and alighted at Kopargaon. Their joy knew no bounds when they saw there Nana Sahib Sandorkar, who was also bound for Shirdi. Kaka Sahib and Nana Sahib embraced each other, and after bathing in the sacred Godavari river, they started for Shirdi. After coming there and getting Baba's darshan, Kaka Sahib's heart melted, his eyes were full of tears, and his heart was overflowing with joy. Baba said to him that he was also waiting for him and had sent Shama ahead to receive him. Kaka Sahib then passed many happy years in Baba's company. He built a Wada in Shirdi, which he made more or less his permanent home. The experiences he got from Baba are so many-fold that it is not possible to relate them all here. The readers are advised to read a special Kaka Sahib Dikshit number of Sri Sai Lila magazine volume 2, numbers 6 to 9. We close his account with a mention of one fact only. Baba had comforted him by saying that in the end he will take him in air coach, Viman, that is, secure him a happy death. This came out true. On the 5th of July 1926, he was travelling in the train with Hemant Pant and talking about Sai Baba. He seemed deeply engrossed in Sai Baba. All of a sudden, he threw his neck on Hemant Pant's shoulder and breathed his last with no trace of pain or uneasiness. Sri Tembe Swami. We come to the next story, which shows how saints love each other with fraternal affection. Once Sri Vasudevanand Saraswati, known as Sri Tembe Swami, encamped at Rajamahendri in Andhra country on the banks of the Godavari. He was devout, orthodox, jnani and yogi bhakta of the Dattatreya. One Mr. Pundalik Rao, pleader of Nanded, Nizam state, went to see him with some friends. While they were talking with him, the names of Shirdi and Sai Baba were casually mentioned. Hearing Baba's name, the Swamiji joined hands with reverence and taking a coconut, gave it to Pundalik Rao and said to him, "Offer this to my brother Sai with my pranam and request him not to forget me but ever love me." He also added that Swamis do not generally bow to others, but in this case an exception has to be made. Mr. Pundalik Rao consented to take the coconut and his message to Baba. The Swami was right in calling Baba a brother, for as he maintained an Agnihotra or sacred fire day and night in his orthodox fashion, Baba too kept his Agnihotra, that is Dhuni, ever burning in the masjid. After 1 month, Pundalik Rao and others left for Shirdi with the coconut and reached Manmad, and as they felt thirsty, they went to a rivulet to drink water. As water should not be drunk on an empty stomach, they took out some refreshments, that is chivda, which is flattened rice mixed with spice. The chivda tasted most pungent, and in order to soften it, as someone suggested, broke the coconut and mixed its scrapings with it. Thus they made the chivda more tasty and palatable. Unfortunately, the coconut turned out to be the same that was entrusted to Pundalik Rao. As they neared Shirdi, Pundalik Rao remembered the trust, that is, the coconut, and was very sorry to learn that it was broken and consumed. He came to Shirdi and saw Baba. Baba had already received a wireless message regarding the coconut from Tembe Swami and himself asked Pundalik Rao first to give the thing sent by his brother. He held fast Baba's feet, confessed his guilt and negligence, repented and asked for Baba's pardon. He offered to give another fruit as a substitute, but Baba refused to accept it, saying that the worth of that coconut was far more than that of an ordinary one and that it could not be replaced by another. Baba also added, "Now you need not worry yourself any more about the matter. It was on account of my wish that the coconut was entrusted to you and ultimately broken on the way. Why should you take the responsibility of the actions on you? Do not entertain the sense of doership in doing good as well as for bad deeds. Be entirely prideless and egoless in all things, and thus your spiritual progress will be rapid." What a beautiful spiritual instruction Baba gave. Balaram Dhurandhar, 1878 to 1925. Mr. Balaram Dhurandhar belonged to the Pathare Prabhu community of Santa Cruz, Mumbai. He was an advocate of the Mumbai High Court and sometime principal of Government Law School, Mumbai. The entire Dhurandhar family was pious and religious. Mr. Balaram served his community and wrote and published an account of it. He then turned his attention to spiritual and religious matters. He studied the Gita and its commentary Jnaneshwari and other philosophical and metaphysical works. He was a devotee of Vithoba of Pandharpur. He came in contact with Sai Baba in 1912. 6 months earlier, his brothers Babuji and Vaman Rao came to Shirdi and took Baba's darshan. They returned home and mentioned their sweet experiences to Balaram and other members. Then they all decided to see Sai Baba. Before they came to Shirdi, Baba declared openly that today many of my Darbar people are coming. The Dhurandhar brothers were astonished to hear this remark of Baba from others, as they had not given any previous intimation of their trip. All other people prostrated themselves before Baba and sat talking with him. Baba said to them, "These are my Darbar people whom I referred to before," and said to the Dhurandhar brothers, "We have been with each other for the last 60 generations." All the brothers were gentle and modest. They stood with joined hands looking at Baba's feet. All the sattvic emotions such as tears, choking, etc. moved them, and they were all happy. Then they went to their lodging, took their meals, and after taking a little rest again came back to the masjid. Balaram sat near Baba, massaging his legs. Baba, who was smoking the chillum, advanced it towards him and beckoned him to smoke it. Balaram was not accustomed to smoking, still he accepted the pipe, smoked it with great difficulty, and returned it reverentially. This was the most auspicious moment for Balaram. He had been suffering from asthma for 6 years. The smoke completely cured him of the disease, which never troubled him again. Some 6 years later, on a particular day, he again got an attack of asthma. This was precisely the time when Baba took his Mahasamadhi. The day of this visit was a Thursday, and the Dhurandhar brothers had the good fortune of witnessing the Chavadi procession that night. At the Aarti function of the Chavadi, Balaram saw the glow of Pandurang on Baba's face, and next morning at the Kakad Aarti time, the same phenomenon, the same lustre of the beloved deity Pandurang was visible again on Baba's face. Mr. Balaram Dhurandhar wrote in Marathi the life of the Maharashtrian saint Tukaram, but he did not survive to see its publication. It was published later on by his brothers in 1928. In a short note on Balaram's life given at the beginning of that book, the above account of Balaram's visit has been fully corroborated by page 6 of the book. Bow to Sri Sai. Peace be to all.